Hi, good day everyone. So this video is about graphing rational functions. Okay, so dear students, I have here your given activity. Okay, wherein we consider this given function f of x is equals to x minus 2 over x plus 2. Okay, and we are asked to solve number one for its domain. Okay, number two, we are asked to find its x and y intercept. Number three is to sketch its graph. And number four, we need to determine its range. Okay? So again, dear students, let's answer this one, okay, ng one by one. So isa-isahin natin yung important things na dapat alam natin before tayong mag-graph ng isang rational function. Okay? So number one, again, we have this domain. And according to definition, so again, domains are just the value of x. Okay? It is just the set of all first values. Or basically, dear students, if we want to construct table of values, ito yung mga x values na makikita natin. Okay? Again, the domains are values of x such that the denominator will not be equal to 0. Okay? If we are dealing with rational functions. Okay? So, ito yung values of x wherein if we use this set of value, hindi niya gagawing undefined. Okay, so we know the concept sa fraction, if our denominator is equal to 0, automatically that entire function ay magiging undefined. Okay, so for example, again, let's say we have this given function. Let's say we have f of x is equals to x plus 1 over x squared minus 4. Okay, let's say we have this given function and let's say we are asked to solve for its domain. Okay, again, dear students, a reminder lang, for the domain, ano yung possible values of x lang. Okay, so that means if we have this rational, we need to look for restrictions. Okay, hindi lahat kasali kasi meron tayong tinatawag na mga values that will make our given function undefined. Okay, so therefore for step number one, dear students, to solve this, okay, so for step number one, let's equate or set the denominator equal to 0. Okay, just set the denominator or letter D equal to 0. So let's solve this one. Okay, so we have this given denominator. So just equate this to 0. Therefore, it will give us x squared minus 4 is equal to 0. And this time, we need to solve for its roots. Okay? So it's either makaka-encounter tayo ng linear equation or quadratic or any form of equation pa. Basta our task is to solve for its x. So for this given problem, we have x squared minus 4 is equals to 0. So that is obviously an example of quadratic equation. Okay? So again, for quadratic equation, if you want to solve for its roots, we have four methods or ways. So we have completing the square, okay, extracting the square root, factoring, or with use of a quadratic formula. So, pipiliin nyo lang kung ano yung mas prefer ninyong way, okay, just to solve for the roots of this set of quadratic equation. So, I think ang mas maganda is let's start to use factoring. So, if you want to use factoring, that is, we have x plus 2 times x minus 2, that is equal to 0. That means, the roots for this given expression or equation, we have the x sub 1 as negative 2, and we have x sub 2 as positive 2. Okay? So, what do you mean by those values ngayon? So, ang use naman ng dalawang values na to, ito yung dalawang values wherein if we substitute this to our original function, gagawin niyang undefined or equal to 0 ang ating denominator. Okay? That means automatically, the set of values are not part of our domain. Okay? So, for step number 2, dear students, so this time, just write the domain. Okay, for step number 2, again, just write the statements. Okay, what is your conclusion right now? Ano yung magiging values na ng ating domain? So, usual ng ginagawa is yung sentence form. So, that means for this given problem, the domains are all set of real numbers except the values of negative 2 and positive 2. Okay, so therefore we have all real numbers except positive and negative 2. Okay? So, pwede mo rin siyang isulat sa iba't ibang way. So, pwede rin natin gawing the values of our domain or x or any elements of real numbers such that x is not equal to positive or negative 2. Okay? So, we're expecting their students na kung meron man tayong graph later, hindi kasali yung portion ng positive tsaka negative 2 if we have this given function. Right? So, let's solve another set of problem before nating sagutin yung ating pinaka-question sa taas. Okay, what if we have this given problem? Let's say we have g of x. Okay, let's say we have g of x equals to 3x minus 1 over x plus 4. Again, for this given problem, same procedure, dear students. Step number 1, let's equate the denominator to 0. So that means, kunin natin yung denominator and lagyan natin siya ng 0 sa dulo. So we have x plus 4 is equal to 0, and after that, let's solve for its roots or the values of x. So just solve this one. So let's subtract 4 both sides. Therefore, the values of x for this given linear equation, we have negative 4. Right? So again, this value will serve as our restriction. Okay? Hindi siya part na ating magiging pinaka-solution. So again, by the way, if you want to illustrate this one, let's plot negative 4 on a number line. Okay, since we're talking or we're dealing with the domain, dear students, let's say we have negative 4 at this point. Okay? So again, the domains are a set of x values. So let's say we have this x-axis, okay? So automatically, if that is negative 4 and that is not part of our solution, pwedeng maging yung side na to, dear students, yung ating pinaka-kabilang side, together with the left side, pwedeng maging part yun ng solution, okay? But this point, which is negative 4, siya ay hindi part ng solution or restriction siya. So, i-remove natin siya. Kaya para tayo magkaroon ng domains as all real numbers. So, we will accept the value of negative 4. So, accept negative 4. Okay? So, pwede mo na siya isulat as the values of our domain or x or any elements of real numbers such that x is not equal to negative 4. Okay? So, iba naman is ginagawa yung gantong form. So, we have the domains as, since ina-approach ito yung negative infinity, yung kabilang side naman is positive infinity. So, we have this negative infinity up to negative 4 union sa ating negative 4, positive infinity. Alright? So, that is for the domain. Okay? So, for the domains, again, dear students, be careful. So, we need to produce set of values na hindi gagawing undefined yung ating given rational function. Okay? So, for this given problem, let's answer our question. So, sa question natin, dear students, we are asked to solve for the domain of this given function, which is f of x is equals to x minus 2. Okay, so we have x minus 2 over x plus 2. Okay, so same procedure lang, dear students, and please try to double check your answer. Okay, kung hawak ninyo yung inyong mga outputs. So let's say we have this denominator. We have x plus 2 is equal to 0. So again, we have this value of x as negative 2. Okay? So yung negative 2, siya yung hindi magiging part ng ating solution. Therefore, we have this x or any elements of real numbers such that x is not equal to negative 2. Okay? So later sa ating given problem, we're expecting na hindi siya part ng ating solution. Right? So let's proceed to our question number 2, wherein we are asked to solve for the intercept. Okay. So for the intercept, dear students, so again, we have these intercepts. So again, intercepts are just the point of intersection. Okay? So for example, we have this graph. And as you observe, there are cases wherein yung graph natin nag-cross siya or nag-intersect sa ating pinaka x or y axis. Okay? And those points of intersection will serve as the intercepts actually. Okay? So we have this x and y. So actually, number 1 nga, dear students, if we have a graph, okay, with the aid of graph, pwede mo ma-determine kung ano yung magiging point of intersection natin. So pwede mo na siya makita through observation. And what if we have this given problem na naka-function lang? So actually, we have different steps to solve that. So again, let's talk about number 1, the x-intercept. Okay? So since that is about x-intercept, we are dealing with the x-axis. Okay, so x-intercepts are just the values of x, okay, that will make the function 0. Again, these are just the values of x that will make our function 0. So, babalikan natin, dear students, yung pinaka-concept natin in terms of rational. Okay? Or fraction. So, since gusto mong gawing 0, yung entire function mo, okay, because you want to solve for the intercept, so obviously, babalikan mo yung concept ng fraction wherein, if the numerator is equal to 0, obviously, that entire function ay magiging equal kay 0. So, that means if we have this given problem, sige, let's answer our given problem. We have f of x is equals to x minus 2 over x plus 2. Okay? So, since we need to look for a value, think of a value wherein gagawin niyang 0 yung entire function na to. So, yung step number 1 lang natin, dear students. So, basically, we need to equate the numerator to 0. So, yun lang. Okay, so just equate the numerator or letter n to 0. Why? Kasi pag naging 0 yung numerator, magiging 0 yung ating entire function. So, let's equate this one to 0. So, therefore, it will give us x minus 2 is equal to 0. And let's solve for the value of x. So, we have plus 2 plus 2. So, obviously, the value of x for this given function is positive 2. Okay? And that value will serve as our x-intercept. Okay? So, and if you want to define or identify its ordered pair, okay? Ano yung ordered pair natin for that intercept? So, pwede mo siyang isulat. Actually, that is written as x comma 0. Okay? As an ordered pair. So, since we have 2 as the value of x, therefore, its corresponding ordered pair is 2 comma 0. Okay? So, pwede natin gamitin yung dalawang notation na yan. Okay, that is for the x-intercept. Right? So, let's proceed to the y-intercept. So, unlike x-intercept, for the y-intercept naman, dear students, we're dealing with the y-axis. Okay? The y-intercept. Now, again, pwede mo siyang makita with the aid of our graph. But if you want to solve the y-intercept, kapag meron tayong function, so actually may step tayo. So actually, it is obtained by setting the values of x or the function equal to 0. Okay, so again, it is obtained by setting the values of x equal to 0 or as 0. Again, if we want to set the values of x as 0, it looks like we want to evaluate this function as f of 0. Okay, so parang yun yung pinaka magiging procedure natin. Right? So again, let's try to answer our given problem for the y-intercept. So since we have f of x is equals to x minus 2 over x plus 2, okay, so just evaluate with zeros. That is our step. So magiging f of 0. Okay? If that is f of 0, therefore, just replace the values of x as 0. So, therefore, it will give us 0 minus 2 over 0 plus 2. And just simplify, it will give us 0 minus 2 is negative 2, and 0 plus 2 is positive 2. Okay? So, simplify this one. Therefore, the value of y is equals to negative 1. So, we have this point of intersection at negative 1. Okay? So, again, since the y-intercept, it is actually written then sa ordered pair as 0 comma y. Okay? Since we have this y value as negative 1, so let's replace the value of y as negative 1. So here's our point of intersection sa ating y-axis. Okay? So those are the concept of intercepts. Right? So next. So proceed agad tayo, dear students, sa pinaka-graph ng ating rational function. So let's try to sketch the graph of it. Okay, now we have this different details. Okay, so again, ano yung sense ng mga activities natin last meeting? Okay, sir, why we solve the values of the values of x? Okay, that will make our function undefined. Okay, so anong use po nun? So why we need to solve for the values of those intercepts? Okay, so actually yun yung details na kailangan natin before tayong mag-graph. Okay, but before that, since we are dealing with the graph na, so let's talk about asymptotes. Okay, so again, we have this asymptotes wherein hindi niya i-allow yung ating graph na mag-intersect or mag-cross sa kanya. Okay? So the concept of asymptotes, it looks like lines na nag-approach but never silang magi-intersect. Okay? So actually in a graph, we have different set of asymptotes. So this time pag-usapan natin yung dalawa. Okay? So pinaka madalas gamitin na asymptote, which is the vertical and then the horizontal asymptote. Okay? And then this set of asymptotes or lines will serve as the boundaries or border para sa ating mga given graphs. Okay, so number one, dear students, we have this first asymptote as vertical asymptote. Okay? So actually, the concept of vertical asymptote is similar sa concept natin sa ating values of x that will make our function undefined. Okay, so that is actually connected to this one because the vertical asymptotes are determined by equating the denominator to 0. Okay, so again, it is determined by equating the denominator or letter d to 0. So, again, kung mapapansin nyo, dear students, we have this similar set of procedures lang. So, parang pare-pareho lang naman pala yung procedure natin. Alright, so, good. So, pare-pareho lang siya, but different in terminologies lang. Okay, yung ating ginagamit. Okay, so, again, if you want to solve for its vertical asymptote, so we have this step. So, number one, we need to set the denominator equal to 0. So, again, let's try to answer this given problem. So, let's say we have this function f of x. Let's say we have 2x squared over x squared minus 1. Okay? So, for example, we have this given problem and we want to determine its vertical asymptote. Okay? So, again, so step number one, dear students. So, according to our definition, we need to equate the denominator equal to 0. So, that means, if we have this given function, kunin natin yung denominator. Therefore, we have x squared minus 1. And let's equate this one to 0. So x squared minus 1 is equal to 0. And after that, since we have this quadratic equation, just solve for its roots. And those roots, or solution, will serve as our asymptotes. So I think pwede natin siya i-factor. So if you want to factor this one, this is equal to x plus 1 times x minus 1 is equal to 0. So obviously the values of x or x sub 1 is negative 1 and x sub 2 as positive 1. Okay, so we have this set of roots, negative 1 and positive 1. Now, let's try to place those asymptotes sa ating pinaka-graph. So let's say we have this given Cartesian plane. Okay, so again, ano yung pinaka-gamit ng ating tinatawag na vertical asymptote? So if you want to place the value of negative 1, so let's say this is negative 1. Okay, that is for negative 1. And you also have this line or asymptote for the positive 1. Again, dear students, therefore, for this given problem pala, we are expecting na sa dalawang line na yan, walang lalabas or magi-intersect na graph. Okay? So, ano yung possibilities dito? So, pwedeng, kung meron kang point dito, if we have this set of points, pwedeng magkaroon tayo ng graph between those asymptotes, okay? And the remaining nasa labas, pwede naman yun. Basta ang concept lang, bawal silang mag-intersect or mag-cross sa ating mga asymptote. Okay? So again, let's try to answer another set of problem. Let's identify its given vertical asymptote. Let's say we have g of x. Okay? Let's say g of x equals to x squared plus x minus 2. And that is all over x squared minus x minus 6. Okay? So same problem dear students. Just solve for its vertical asymptote. And we have this step. So step number 1, just set the denominator equal to 0. So again, kunin natin tong ating denominator and let's equate this one to 0. So therefore we have x squared minus x minus 6 is equal to 0 and solve for its roots. Okay? And yung magiging solution natin will serve as our vertical asymptote. So again, just let's say we want to factor this one, therefore we have x I think that is negative 3 or minus 3 times x plus 2. Okay, so again, let's try to double check this one. If you multiply negative 3 to positive 2, the answer is negative 6. So good, tama tayo. And next is negative 3 plus 2. The answer is our midterm, which is negative 1. So very good. Therefore, we have this correct factor. Okay, so since we have this set of factors, the values of our x, we have x of 1 as positive 3, and we also have x of 2 as negative 2. And those points will serve as our vertical asymptote. So again, if you want to plot those points on a number line, so just construct a number line or Cartesian plane. Okay, so we have this set of values. We have positive 3. So we have 1, 2, 3. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. Okay, ang tip natin dito, dear students, since we have a vertical asymptote, we need to construct a vertical line. So therefore, we need to focus to our x-axis only. Okay, sa x-axis lang tayo pupunta. So we have positive 3. So we have this set of point for positive 3. And we also have negative 2. So approximately dito siya banda. So that is the very concept of vertical asymptote. Okay, so later it will give us an idea kung ano yung magiging behavior, okay, ng our limitation ng ating pinaka graph of rational function. Okay, so let's proceed to our next key point, which is, so we have vertical, so proceed tayo sa ating horizontal asymptote. Okay, so unlike vertical asymptote, dear students, for horizontal, it is determined actually by simply comparing the degrees. Okay, so horizontal asymptote. Now, for vertical again, we equate the denominator to 0 this time. So, mas madali, okay? Just simply compare the degrees lang. Yun lang yung pinaka-concept natin dito. Again, horizontal asymptotes are determined by comparing the degrees. Okay? Comparing the degrees of our numerator and denominator. Of numerator and letter D denominator. Okay. So, therefore, through observation ng dear students, pwede mong makuha yung pinaka concept natin dito. So, ano yung mga cases na yun? So, again, if you want to solve for the vertical or horizontal naman, dear students, since that is horizontal, if you want to plot those points naman, okay, mag-focus naman tayo sa ating pinaka y-axis. Okay, so since we want to construct this horizontal line. Now, ano yung concept naman for horizontal asymptote? So let's say we have this given function. So we know that the concept of function, dear students, that is written as f of x, okay, and that is equals to our numerator, right, or n of x, and we also have the denominator or d of x. Okay, that is the concept of our fraction or rational. And we know that it is combination of polynomials. Okay, so that is a sub n. Okay, we have this variable and we also have this exponent. Okay, and sa denominator naman niya, which is b sub n or m. So let's try to use denominator as m, and we have this x raised to m. Okay, so if you want to continue the concept of this polynomials, pag naka-standard form, so magiging a sub n minus 1 raised to x times x minus 1. Okay, same with the denominator b, m minus 1, x, m minus 1. Until makuha natin yung pinakadulo, which is the constant, a sub 0 and then b sub 0. So, anong concept dito, sir? So, again, since for horizontal asymptote, we are asked to just determine or compare. Okay, so just compare the degrees. So, again, for the degrees, it is actually the highest exponent, okay, of an expression or polynomial expression. So, ano yung pinaka-head ng ating pinaka-given problem? So, for this given situation, dear students, just focus to the numerator, okay, the exponent of numerator, and sa pinaka-exponent ng ating denominator. Why? Because we have this set of cases, okay? So, I will list down the cases. So, we have 3 set of cases. So, case letter A. So, for letter A, dear students, if the exponent of our numerator, or n, is greater than the exponent of our denominator, okay, then the horizontal asymptote does not exist. So, there are cases, dear students, wherein pwede tayo magkaroon ng problem na walang horizontal asymptote. And that is our case letter A. Okay? So if the degree or the exponent of our numerator is greater than the denominator, so wala tayong given horizontal asymptote. Okay? That is our case letter A. Now, for case letter B, dear students, so kabalitan na naman siya ng first case, which is if the degree or the exponent of our numerator is less than the given degree of our denominator, okay, then the horizontal asymptote is equal to 0. Right? So what do you mean by equal to 0? So that means it looks like the x-axis then. Okay? Kapag sinet natin siya sa ating pinaka-Cartesian plane. Okay? That is our case letter B. And then last, we have this case letter C. Okay? So that is for equal naman. Okay? So for case letter C, if the degree of our numerator is equal to the degree of our denominator, then the horizontal asymptote is actually determined by simply dividing their numerical coefficient, or simply A over B. Okay? So, i-divide natin, dear students, yung kanilang corresponding numerical coefficient. And that quotient or yung value will serve as our horizontal asymptote. Okay? So, I will give different set of examples for this one. So, let's say we have this letter A. So let's say we have a of x, okay? Let's say a of x is equals to, let's say 3x squared over 2x squared plus 1, okay? Let's say we have this given function, okay? And we are asked to solve for its horizontal asymptote. So same procedure, dear students. So just determine or compare their degrees, okay? So we have this degree for numerator, and we also have this one for the denominator. So obviously, numerator is equal to the denominator, okay? So that is obviously case letter C. So we are under case letter C, or the third case. So that means pag case letter C, we need to simply divide their numerical coefficient, okay? So if you want to divide your numerical coefficient, so we have this y is equals to 3 over 2, okay? Or simply 1.5. Or if you want to convert this into fraction or decimal, so pwede. It's up to you, dear students. Basta yung point natin for the horizontal is actually positive 3 over 2. Okay? So that is our case letter C. Now, proceed tayo sa ating next example. Let's say we have b of x. Let's say that is equals to 8x squared all over 4x cubed plus 2x squared minus 10. Okay? Let's say we have this given problem. And again, just observe what are the degrees for this given problem. Okay? So since we're under horizontal asymptote, so we have the value of 2 and the value of 3. So that means the numerator is actually less than the denominator. Or if that's the case, your students, we're under case letter B. And according to case letter B, your students, automatically, the value of your horizontal asymptote is equal to 0. So that is y is equal to 0. Okay? So next one. So let's proceed to example number 3, or letter C. Let's say we have c of x is equal to this. Let's say we have 2x times x plus 2 all over let's say 3x. Okay? So again, sa unang tingin natin, dear students, it looks like case letter C, wherein mukha siyang equal. Okay? Okay, so pwede nating ibigay agad as case letter C. But the problem is, if you know the idea, dear students, na pwede natin itong i-simplify, okay, pwede mo siyang actually distribute sa ating given binomial. So that means hindi pa final yung form na to. So this function C is actually equals to 2x squared plus 4x. Okay, so 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 2 is positive 4x. Okay, and that is all over 3x. And dito pa lang tayo mag-start mag-differentiate ng ating mga, or mag-compare ng ating mga degrees. So that means we have positive 2 and we have this 1. And obviously that is the numerator is greater than the denominator, which is our case letter A. Okay, so we have case letter A, and if we have case letter A, automatically we have this horizontal asymptote na hindi nag-exist. Okay, so the answer is none. Right? So we have these different cases for the asymptotes. Okay, that is about um, vertical and the horizontal asymptote. Okay, so again, your students, yung mga details na yun, those are the key terms na kailangan natin before tayo mag-wrap ng ating given um, function. Okay, now this time let's try to generalize ano yung mga details ulit na kailangan natin just to graph this given function. So again, ano yung mga terms na meron tayo? So, number one, so yung mga steps na pwede natin magamit or key terms na pwede natin magamit is, let's plot, number one, dear students, let's plot the zeros, okay? Or also known as the intercepts. Okay, so after natin i-plot yung mga intercept natin, dear students, let's locate, okay, or place all of our asymptotes. Right? And then next one, dear students, ito yung additional ko lang naman, just to make sure na we have this appropriate or correct set of graph. So I encourage you to construct table of values for specific points, okay? So construct table of values. And that's it. Okay? So we have this given set of rules lang before tayo mag-graph ng isang given rational function. So let's answer our given problem, okay? So again, we want to sketch the graph of this f of x is equals to x minus 2 over x plus 2. So therefore, if you want to construct a Cartesian plane, say we have this one, and we have this set of points. Right, so we have this set of values. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. Okay, let's say we have this given Cartesian plane. Okay, so number one, dear students, let's plot, okay, the intercepts for this given problem. Okay, so according to our previous example and solutions, so number one, the x-intercept, dear students, is equals to positive 2. Okay, and the y-intercept is equals to negative 1. So let's try to plot all of those points. So we have this point for the x-intercept, and we have this negative 1 for the y-intercept. Okay? Next. So next step is let's locate or place all of our asymptote. Now, for the given asymptotes, dear students, yung vertical asymptote natin, okay? Or the VA, so the vertical asymptote is actually placed according to ating solution, that is negative 2. Okay? So again, vertical asymptotes are obtained by equating our denominator to 0. That means if we have x plus 2 as our denominator, so negative 2 gagawin niya 0 yung ating given denominator. So we have VA or vertical asymptote as negative 2, and we have horizontal asymptote as, actually that is positive 1. Okay, let's try to compare the exponents of this given problem. So we have this given exponents or degrees as 1 and 1, that is equal. So that is case letter C. Okay, so for case letter C, divide natin yung ating mga numerical coefficients. So 1 divided by 1 is simply 1. So we have this vertical and horizontal asymptote, and let's place all of those points. That means for vertical, we have this point. Okay, next is for the horizontal, we have positive 1. So therefore, dito siya banda. Right, and that's it, dear students. Okay, and next is if we want to construct table of values for this given problem, so kindly construct table of values with x and y values, and then after that, just select the points, evaluate it, and solve for the values of y or its corresponding y. So that means, dear students, obviously, if we have this set of asymptotes, vertical and horizontal, so pwede nating i-approximate yung graph natin as this graph. Okay? So, i-reach niya or i-approach niya yung ating asymptote pero never silang mag-intersect. So obviously, if you want to evaluate or construct table of values as -3, okay, as our x, and -4, so obviously, dear students, we have these given points. Okay, so approximately for -3, so we have this given graph. Okay, so that's it. So that's the entire concept of this what was so called rational function or its graph. Okay? So again, be careful lang. So we have these different reviews lang for the domain and range, okay? The asymptote and table of values. So we have this given graph actually. And if you want to provide the actual graph of it, so pwede mo siyang i-double check with the use of a graphing calculator. Again, reminder, so since alam natin na our graph is extended infinitely, same with our asymptotes. So kahit mag-move ang ating graph up to positive infinity or negative infinity, so that is okay. So same lang sila ng concept ng ating asymptotes. Okay? So last one, dear students. Before natin makalimutan, so syempre, the last part is the range. So this one, hinuli ko talaga siya. So we place this one to the last part of our discussion because this one will serve as the introduction to our next topic, which is inverse function. Okay? So later, next meeting natin yung alamin. But this time, what do you mean by range? So actually, counterpart siya ni domain, okay? So maybe some of you are wondering na alam naman natin na si domain ay laging partner ni range. But this time, hiniwalay ko siya. So again, yung concept kasi niya is similar sa ating next topic. Because if you want to find the value of range, again, range are just the y values, okay? And if you want to determine the values of range, actually, it is just the inverse of a given function. Okay? So, gagawin niyang inverse yung function natin to solve for the values of range. And to look for the restrictions. Actually, so may mga restriction pa rin tayo. Now, I will give you the steps for this one. Okay? Let's try to solve this one. Let's say we have this given problem. F of x equals to x minus 2 over x plus 2. Okay? So, let's try to answer our given problem. Yung mismong original problem natin. What will be the range if we have this given function? Again, since range are just a set of y values, we have different steps for this one. So, step number 1, dear students, is we need to interchange the x and y values. Again, that is interchange x and y. Okay, so kukunin natin yung kanyang inverse. So, again, for interchange, dear students, actually this f of x, to avoid confusion, actually f of x or the function represents the value of y. So, therefore, this is actually equals to y is equals to x minus 2 over x plus 2. Okay? And since we want to interchange the values of x and y for step number 1, therefore it will give us x is equals to y minus 2 over y plus 2. Okay? So that is our first step. And then step number 2, dear students. Okay? So let's proceed. For step number 2, you need to solve for y. Since we have this given expression, so we need to solve for y. So what do you mean by solve for y, sir? So we need to produce an expression wherein dapat naka y is equals to an expression siya. Okay? So let's solve this one. So since we have this value, so we have x is equals to y minus 2 over y plus 2. I think we need to remove our denominator with the use of this LCD, which is y plus 2. So let's multiply both sides to y plus 2. Okay? And it will allow us to cancel this denominator and cancel this one. Let's multiply this y plus 2 to x. Therefore, it will give us x times y plus 2 is equals to y minus 2. Right? And let's proceed. So, just simplify. So, distribute the value of x to this given binomial. So, x times y is xy times our x times 2. So, we have 2x. Okay? And that is equals to y minus 2. Okay? And since we need to solve for the value of y, we need to place the values of y or expressions with y sa one side ng ating expression. So therefore, I need to move this value, okay? And I need to remove this value, the value of 2x. So dapat sa isang side, puro y lang. Sa isang side naman, yung mga walang values of y. So that means it will give us this. So let's move the values. Okay? So that means we have x, y. So by the way, I will give you this the Q lang. So let's move the value of y first. So since I want to remove this one, I will subtract y both sides. Okay? So therefore, it will give us xy minus y plus 2x is equals to negative 2. Okay? Next naman natin, let's move the value of 2x. So that means I need to subtract 2x both sides. Okay? That means it will give us xy minus y is equals to negative 2x minus 2. Okay? So since we have this given expression right now, dear students, we need to solve for the value of y na. So I think we need to manipulate this one. So medyo meron tayong problema dito. But this time, pwede ba siyang ma-resolve with the use of factoring? Or we need to factor this one. So actually, this is equal to y times x minus 1. Okay? So obviously, the factor is y times x minus 1. So y times x is xy. And y times 1, negative 1, is negative y. Okay? So good. So that is our factor. And that is equals to negative 2x. Okay, that is negative 2x minus 2. And since we want to solve for the value of y, okay, so we are looking for a single value of y, let's divide this both sides. Okay, 2x minus 1. Divide it both sides to x minus 1, and to allow us to cancel this one. And therefore, the value of y for this given expression, we have y is equals to negative 2x minus 2 over x minus 1. So dear students, it looks like a new set of function. Okay, actually this one will serve as the inverse of our previous example. And since we have this given answer, that is not yet the value of our range. Okay, hindi pa yun yung pinaka-range natin. Because our step number 2 is we need to find the domain. It looks like the same step lang din for the domain. So for step number 3, dear students, so solve for the domain of this given inverse function. Okay? And again, we know the details for the domain. Alam natin yung concept niya. So the domains are actually obtained by setting the denominator equal to 0. So that means if we have this given expression, so just equate this denominator to 0. We have x minus 1 is equal to 0. And the value of x, let's add 1 both sides. So the value of x for this given expression or function is equals to 1. So this time, this value of 1 will serve as our restriction. That is not our range. Okay? Remember, dear students, that is not the value of our range. Okay? It will just serve as our restriction. So hindi siya part ng ating solution. Maliwanag? So therefore, for the last step, step number 4, let's state our answer. So therefore, dear students, the values of our range for this given problem were in, let's say we have y or n elements of real numbers, such that the y value, okay, is not equal to positive 1. Right? And that's it. So I will give you another set of example, and then let's try to determine kung same ba yung ginawa nating procedure for this given problem. Okay? So last example, dear students, let's say we have this. Let's say we have f of x is equals to 2x minus 1 over x plus 4. Right? So let's say we have this given problem. And again, same procedure, dear students. Step number 1 is to interchange the values of x and y. So by the way, we know that this f of x is actually written as y is equals to 2x minus 1 over x plus 4. So after this one, since may value na tayo ng y, pwede mo na siyang i-interchange. So let's interchange the values of x and y. So therefore, it will give us x is equals to 2y minus 1 over y plus 4. Okay? So after this, let's proceed to step number 2. Let's solve for the value of y. So again, since we have this denominator, let's remove the denominator by multiplying this entire expression to our LCD, which is y plus 4. So we have x is equals to 2y minus 1 over y plus 4 times our LCD, which is y plus 4, both sides. Okay? So again, cancel out this denominator and multiply this to our value of x. Okay? So that means we have this given value. We have x times y plus 4 is equals to 2y minus 1. And let's simplify this. So distribute the value of x. That means we have xy plus 4x is equals to 2y minus 1. And the next is we need to isolate the values of expression with y. Okay, it's either sa left side or sa right side. So that means I need to move this to y, okay, sa kabilang side, and I need to remove this 4x, right? So that means we have xy minus 2y is equals to negative 4x minus 1. Okay, so since we have this given expression, let's solve for the value of y. Let's factor this one, factor the value of y. So actually y is the product of y times, or this expression is actually a product of y times x, okay, x minus 2. Okay, so let's double check. So y times x, that is xy, and y times negative 2 is negative 2y. So good. So we have this given factor. Next, that is equals to negative 4x minus 1. Okay? So since we are solving for the single value of y, so move natin to dito. So we have y times x minus 2, negative 4x minus 1. So we need to remove our denominator, which is x minus 2. So let's by the way, so let's multiply this 1, okay, to 1 over x minus 2 to remove this x minus 2. So we have x minus 2. Okay? So cancel natin to. Therefore, the value of y for this given function is equals to negative 4x minus 1 over x minus 2. Okay? So we have this given inverse, okay, of this rational function. So since nakuha na natin yung pinaka-inverse, dear students, again, this one is not yet our final answer. So let's solve for the domain of this given expression, and that domain will serve as our restriction for the range. Okay? So again, let's solve for its domain. So that is we have x minus 2, or set our denominator equal to 0, and solve for the value of x. So let's add 2 both sides. That means x is equals to positive 2. Okay? And that positive 2, again, dear students, will serve as our restrictions. So that means if that is our restriction, for the value of y for this given function, again, we will focus to the y-axis, right? So since we have positive 2, if this is positive 2, therefore, dear students, yung point na to, dear students, okay, or this point, which is positive 2, siya yung ating i-remove sa ating solution. So maybe the part-to-part solution for this given graph is approximately approaching positive infinity up to negative infinity. So pwedeng ganoon yung case natin. So that means if you want to write the range, again, these are the values of y and elements of real numbers wherein y is not equal. So hindi siya pwede maging equal kay 2. Alright, so that's it. So that's the entire concept, dear students, of this topic, which is graphing rational function. So we have this different set of reviews, or review of important concept before tayo mag-graph. Okay? So thank you so much, and God bless everyone.